It is Wager Talk today, and this is Wednesday, June the 19th, hump day, but it's a very special day at WagerTalk.com because it is half price Wednesday. It's quite simple. You get 50% half price on every play and package today, and today, Wednesday only, until the clock strikes midnight. So don't miss out. Go to WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com right now to take advantage. I am Steve Merrill, filling in for the Prez. He'll be back next week, along with my co-host Teddy Covers. And we've got a loaded show here for Wednesday, Teddy. We're bringing back Andy Lang. He did such a great job yesterday at the close that we're going to lead off with him today. He's going to look at a little golf and WNBA prop because he is the prop master at WagerTalk.com. Also, Bryan Power is going to talk some baseball and Euro 24 soccer. And then the CFL, our resident Canadian, since the Prez is gone, we're going to have Andrew McInnis on, and he will talk a couple CFL plays. Don't forget about Canadian football. And speaking of football, Teddy, summertime is here, so it's time to get ready for college and pro American football, and you're going to have a deep dive into college football. We're going to look at season win totals, and also you're going to have a over-under play for season wins for Michigan, your Michigan Wolverines that you know better than anybody on the face of this planet. So we're going to talk about them in a little bit. So college football, baseball, basketball, everything in between. Let's get it started with Andy Lang, the prop master. Andy, we saw you yesterday. We see you again today, and we will see you again Friday as you'll be co-hosting with me in a couple days. Hopefully we give you tomorrow off to get ready. How are you doing, my friend?
I don't think you would have had me on if Zach Hyman hadn't gone under his shots on goal prop like we correctly predicted on the show yesterday. And Teddy, we talked about the line move. He laid it on 3. And so we were talking about, like, what do the books do? 3.5, 2. So we played the number perfectly, and it worked out in our favor. So it was a good night for us.
Yeah, the concept of being able to bet over 2.5 if the books move it and under 3.5 if the books keep it where it is. That's a nice concept, Andy. It certainly worked pretty well for you. Let's start today with some golf. You have a top 20 finish you want to talk about for the Travelers Championship. Tell us who, tell us why.
Yeah, we got a bet on Hideki Matsuyama, who I feel like has just been flying under the radar this year. And it does make sense. He started off the year with a couple of rough finishes, but he was dealing with some neck issues, and he appears to be behind that. This is a guy that in the last 3 months is number 4 in the field in total strokes gained. So we're going to take him to finish inside the top 20. Finished 6th at the tough U.S. Open course last week, 8th at the Memorial. That's another tough course. Before that, 35th and 38th at the Masters. And even before that, 7th, 6th, 12th. So he's got some really good finishes. And this course is so different from the PGA Championship and the Masters. Those were the 2 courses that he did not finish in the top 20. This course is short. It's only 6,900 yards. It's a second shot course, and he is very good on approaches. His short game has been really good, and last year he finished 13th here at this one. Rory McIlroy's not playing this week, so there's another guy that was probably going to be in the top 20. He's going to be out of there, and this is a short field, only 71 players playing. So he's been undervalued. I love what I've seen from him the last couple weeks. And when we get a guy that's easily inside the top 20 for total strokes gained in the last 3 months, we have to be betting on him. So Matsuyama should have a really, really nice week at the Travelers.
That's Andy Lang, WagerTalk.com. We call him the prop master because he does cover multiple sports, including golf, as you just heard. And Andy, you do a lot with basketball props. The NBA season is over. The NHL season we thought might be over last night, but they're extending another game until Friday. And Summer Solstice is actually tomorrow, the 20th. So technically summer does start now before the NHL season ends, which is kind of ironic. But we're going to look at a WNBA basketball prop because they're in full swing right now. And I'm always curious about Caitlin Clark, obviously one of the most public players in the history of sports betting probably. What's your take? Have you found value with her props, and are you looking at anything in the game?
Yeah, we found some real value, and we found value on the unders. And then today I'm going to come on here and talk about her over. So the premise with Caitlin Clark and the unders is, she was just in college a few months ago. This is a grind. All the attention is on her. And betting her unders has been profitable if you would have played it every single game of the year. But what we have here is a situation where Caitlin Clark is playing the Washington Mystics, who are one of the worst teams in the league. They're not very good defensively. And she played Washington a few games ago, and she hung 30 on them. So I'm going to take her over 17.5 points. She was 7 of 13 from threes against this Washington team. And Washington is one of the best teams in the league at defending in the paint. So you can exploit Washington on the perimeter, which is where Caitlin Clark lives. So the other thing about Caitlin Clark is you play her unders when she's got like kind of a clump of games together. Their schedule to start the year was insane. It was just, there were back-to-backs. There was only one night rest. So I noticed when she gets a few days rest that she tends to play a lot better, fresher legs, and she hasn't played since the 16th. So we get Caitlin Clark on rest. She put up 30 in the last game against them. So I think this is a nice spot to kind of zig when everyone's zagging, because I know a lot of people, at least in my world, a lot of people have been playing Caitlin Clark unders, but I think this is a nice spot for the over.
I mean, the Caitlin Clark phenomenon, it reminds me a little bit of Tiger Woods, where it was a very sleepy betting sport, and then all of a sudden Tiger Woods shows up and starts winning tournaments, and now everyone's interested in betting at the WNBA with Caitlin Clark. May not be quite as dramatic as that, but it's certainly, when you're talking about paying attention to a sport that a lot of people haven't paid a lot of attention to in the past, the Caitlin Clark phenomenon looks pretty real. But I got to ask you, all right, she just torched this team. She's the most public player in the league. Wouldn't you think that the Mystics' entire defensive game plan today is let's not get burned by the gal that just destroyed us? And even after a run of unders, we talk about value. Is there really value betting Caitlin Clark over the total, the most public player in the NBA? So answer me those two questions, if you would.
Yeah, I do. Her teammate, Aaliyah Boston, has been on fire. And Aaliyah Boston plays in the post. And Aaliyah Boston had an okay game against Washington. But I just think it goes to speak to how the Mystics roster has the bodies to defend inside, but they just don't have the bodies to defend outside. So, yeah, they might want to try and slow her down. They might try and trap her on the outside. But based on last game's performance against them, I would say that Washington's going to try and corral Aaliyah Boston a little bit more. Aaliyah Boston's put up massive numbers. Her last 3 games have been the best 3 of the season. So I see a little regression on her teammate, and I see Caitlin Clark having a good one. Washington may want to try and contain her. I'm just not sure they can.
Indiana, a rare favorite, a 5-point home favorite in that game tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern on Wednesday. And that's Andy Lang. He is the prop master. Darts, lacrosse, Professional Fighters League, the PFL, the UFC. He covers it all. A great way to diversify your portfolio. These are sports and bets that Teddy and I will not have this summer. So it's a great way to diversify and win more and add more units to your bankroll. Andy, we saw you yesterday. We saw you today. We're going to see you again on Friday as you'll be co-hosting with me the full show. I'll let people know what you got going on in the meantime at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, we put up one of our infamous half price cross sport parlays. So we're number 1 last 365 days with those. We were 2-1 last week. We're on a 14-5 run with these. These have just been really good bankroll builders. So it's half price at WagerTalk.com. We also have our 5% PFL play that is up. That includes all PFL and UFC plays. So really encourage everyone to invest. This weekend starting Friday is going to be a lot of really, really good plays. So cross-sport parlay, though, half price. It doesn't get any better than that over at Andy Lang, WagerTalk.com.
That's right. It's half price. You're getting 2 sports for half price. That's like a quarter price for each sport. 2-sport parlay from Andy Lang at WagerTalk.com because it is half price Wednesday through tonight only. So you must get on board now. Every play, every package, every capper, no promo code needed. Half price, instant 50% savings. It's like buy one, get one. Wednesday and Wednesday only. WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com as well. Teddy, we got Bryan Power around the corner. He's going to talk some soccer and some Major League Baseball. Bryan will also be on with Mark Zeno and myself, Steve Merrill, at 2 o'clock Eastern live, talking a lot of baseball on First Pitch. And we, of course, take questions from the live chat as well. So check out First Pitch, 2 o'clock Eastern today, Wednesday, live here on Wager Talk TV, YouTube Shorts, and Instagram Live. But in the meantime, it's summertime, so we got to start talking football, and college football win totals are out. What are your thoughts on these virgin numbers, as you would call them, right?
Yeah, virgin numbers are fun. Whether it's for slap boxing and darts like Andy Lang likes to play, or whether we talk about college and NFL numbers like I like to play. And we've seen a lot of what I call them virgin lines in college football popping up the last few weeks. Circa's posted numbers. Westgate's posted numbers here in Las Vegas. Global books are posting as well. We're seeing week 1 point spread. We're seeing games of the year point spreads on games of the year, key games all the way through November. Odds to win the conferences, and obviously most important for this bettor, season wins. And we talk about wise guys and sharp money. Today I'm going to differentiate between 2 different types. Syndicates build big portfolios and they make big bets. Most syndicates aren't really worried about chopping off $1,000 here and $2,000 there. Individual wise guy bettors / originators, they're not necessarily making the biggest bets. They're not paying syndicate money. But what do the individual wise guys, bettors / originators do? They're getting the best of the number. And virgin lines at any given book gives you an amazing chance, the best chance you're going to have to get, quote, the best of the number. Some of these games you're going to get a touchdown better than the market if you analyze teams and strength of schedule correctly. It doesn't mean you're going to win those bets. Lots of CLV trophies on great bets that you made over the summer that don't end up cashing. But here in June, you can legitimately get numbers that nobody else is ever going to get all year on games, on teams. And that's why these virgin numbers, book by book, this book hangs on one day, this book will hang another day, this book will hang a third day, and the lines aren't pounded into shape. So book by book are the virgin numbers so important to the individual wise guys, far more than the syndicates. When it comes to the differences between this year and last year and opening numbers, look, I could go on and on here, and I'm not gonna, but I'll say this. The biggest difference between a last year opener and this year opener, the Arizona Wildcats, who last year opened to 1.5 wins. This year, they're opening over under 7.5 wins. Worth noting, Alabama, lowest win total on Alabama I've seen in decades. Only 9.5 wins in Kalen DeBoer's first era. There's one season win that really stood out to me. We'll talk about it in today's big game breakdown. And of course, the NFL season win report on the horizon. Tuesday, July 2nd, the release date. I'm working NFL every day now. That said, we do have a 5%, a rare, only the second one this season, 5% big ticket in MLB today. You can get that half off, no promo code needed. Just visit the website, WagerTalk.com, or visit my page, WT.buzz/TC. So 5% big ticket in MLB, some college football thoughts, NFL on the horizon. That's what I learned last night, Steve. Back to you, my friend.
Yeah, once again, we've talked about this a lot, Teddy. I mean, the one edge you have playing these early numbers, like you said, is that they can be quite greatly different than the lines in a few months, but they need to be, right? In order to tie up your bankroll, tie up investable capital, you're not trying to find a half-point value and then have your bankroll tied up for 3 months. But then, of course, again, in football, a half a point at 2.5 or 3, if you really think that's going to be the difference, could be worth it. But these are lines that the guys think are several points off, and you'll notice with the point spreads, it's usually around key numbers as well. We talked about that with Arthur DeCesar last week. Obviously, he said like 17 down to 16 on Hawaii, I think was one. He mentioned one was 20.5 up to 21.5. So not a coincidence that you see it around key numbers, because once again, it has to justify tying up your capital for several months. You really have to find several points of line value around key numbers. Speaking of season win totals, Teddy will be talking about his Michigan Wolverines here in just a moment in the big game breakdown. The defending national champs have a very interesting total posted, just like Alabama, as he said. So we'll look forward to hear that in a moment. But let's talk some baseball. Let's talk some soccer with Bryan Power. And Bryan, this is a little warm-up for you because you'll be back on at 2 Eastern with Mark Zito and myself to do a full baseball rundown on First Pitch. But we're going to talk my Washington Nationals against Tokyo Brandon's Arizona Diamondbacks. I think he goes back to Arizona when he comes stateside. We mentioned this game yesterday with Ross Benjamin. You know, the Nats had won 8 out of 9 going into last night, playing themselves into playoff contention. Are they for real, though? That's what I asked Ross, and I'll ask you the same question. And what are you doing with this game tonight?
No, I don't think Washington's for real, quite frankly. I actually cashed a ticket on Arizona yesterday. I know many looked at that pitching matchup of Ciccone versus Irvin as an edge to the Nats, but Ciccone pitched well on the road. Irvin had not pitched well at home, and I was intrigued by that price. I don't think Arizona should have been a dog to Washington. That's why I took Arizona full game yesterday. Even on the road, I didn't think they should have been a dog. And to that point, throw some red meat here for Teddy. Washington's still bottom 6 in my power ratings. I'm not a believer in them at all. As a matter of fact, not only do I not think of them as a possible playoff sleeper, Steve, you look at FanGraphs, I think they have Washington projected for fourth fewest wins, third worst run differential the rest of the way. I'm kind of in line with that. Arizona, to me, meanwhile, is a team that I think is going to play better the rest of the way. Right now, they're middle of the road in my power ratings. You look at this matchup today, which is an afternoon start. Oh, by the way, 4:05 Eastern. Let's make note of that. I think the odds makers have full game priced correctly today. However, where the edge lies is the first 5 innings. I don't think there's any dispute who's got the better starting pitcher on the mound today, because it's Patrick Corbin Day in the nation's capital. And Teddy, Steve, I'm sure most of the viewers, you guys know as well, Corbin's been baseball's worst starter for 5 years now. Since 2020, 28-64, 5.85 ERA. Over the last 4 seasons, get this, he has 16 more losses than any other starter in all of baseball. He's been the best play against pitcher in all of MLB during that stretch. You look at this year, Corbin's 1-7. Fastball velocity is a career low. Strikeout rate's a career low. Team's lost his last 6 starts. Honestly, it's really puzzling how he remains in the starting rotation. Oh, by the way, against the D-backs, who Corbin used to pitch for, he's 0-3 lifetime with a 10.80 ERA. Brandon Pfaadt for Arizona, coming off a really nice outing. He allowed just 1 run in 6 innings. And you look back over his last 9 starts, he's gone at least 8 times. So I'm confident he's going to make it through 5 here without a problem, especially against a Nats lineup that is, you guys know, scored no runs last night, just 4 hits for the season. Washington, bottom 3rd in runs per game. Now, to reduce the juice here, I know people always want to do that. I am willing to lay the half run in the first 5. Betting against Corbin as a dog in the first 5, you'd be 56, 27, and 7 the last 4 seasons. That is a 67% win rate. Big game for Arizona, guys. Win gets them to 500. And in the Depth Shy National League, that might mean a wild card berth. Arizona first 5, laying a half a run is how I'd play this one.
So Corbin's a guy that everybody always wants to fade. And you can understand why. At the same time, he's pitched better lately. What's he? I mean, he's gone 6 full innings, 3 of his last 5 starts. He's allowed 1 earned run in one of those, 2 in another, and 3 in a third. The walks haven't been a problem for him of late. I mean, Corbin certainly, in my mind, is like when you put a list of starting pitchers that everyone wants to fade, he's at the top. He's number 1. But he's been okay. And it's not like Pfaadt's. I mean, Pfaadt's not a guy who I'm excited about. His road numbers are ugly compared to his home numbers. And Arizona's not a good team, are they? Or is this, how much of this is fade Corbin and how much of this is the Nats have overachieved? And how much of this is the D-backs are good? Or is it all 3?
I think it's all 3. I think the D-backs are better than their record. Let's note the positive run differential on the year. And you talked about Pfaadt not necessarily being that good on the road. Well, Corbin at home, 2 of his last 3 starts, he has gotten shelled. Let's point that out. 6 runs he gave up to the Mets. 8 runs he gave up to Minnesota. Look, I come on here lots of times and sort of fade, take a contrarian viewpoint, right? But sometimes there's just things that the numbers are the numbers. And with Corbin, I laid it out. There's not a better pitcher in baseball over the last 4 seasons to fade in the first 5 innings than this guy. Arizona, they're just the better team. They've got the better starter. The big edge is in today's starting pitching matchup, in my opinion. So I'll lay that a half run to reduce the juice. I expect the road team to be winning after 5 this afternoon.
It's Bryan Power, BP if you're in a hurry. BP for short. You can find him at wt.buzz/BP, and he'll be on. There you go. He'll be on the baseball show today at 2 o'clock Eastern with myself, Steve Merrill, and Mark Zinno. We'll be breaking down all the games. Any game you want to ask about, we stay, we answer, live chat, and we do follow both YouTube Shorts and Instagram Live as well, along with WagerTalk TV here on YouTube. Brian, we keep talking baseball, hockey, basketball, football futures, but the biggest sporting event right now in the world is Euros 24 and soccer. So give us something for tomorrow and Thursday. You're going to look at England, Denmark. I believe this goes at noon Eastern tomorrow and Thursday.
Yeah. Yes. So England, for those not following closely, they are one of the favorites to win this entire tournament. They opened up their Euro Cup campaign with a 1-0 win over Serbia. One of the lower event matches we've seen so far in the competition. In fact, the lowest event match we've seen so far in the competition. Now, the good news, if you're England, obviously got all 3 points. It was their 5th straight clean sheet in the Euros in the group stage going back to 2021. For For those less initiated, clean sheet means they allowed no goals. That is a Euro Cup record, 5 straight group matches not allowing a goal. But the bad news, guys, if you're England, they only finished with 5 shots on goal the entire match. There was no semblance of an attack in the second half. Now, when you're as stout defensively as England is and you have a lead, you can kind of afford to play that way, but I still think that lack of shots is worth noting. And beating Denmark is not going to be easy. To that point, you go back to March of 2023, the Danes have just been beaten once in 13 international matches. Last 4 times England and Denmark have met, there have been 2 or fewer goals scored all 4 times. In fact, 3 of those saw no more than 1 total goal scored. And you go back to that England-Serbia match that I mentioned earlier, lowest XG number we've seen so far in this tournament, 0.69. That means less than 1 expected goal was created in that match. You put that XG number in perspective, it was lower than every single Premier League match from this past season. XG is expected goals, by the way. I'm going to add this. If the juice on 2.5, which is now minus 145 and climbing, if that's too high for you, you can shop around for 2.25. Of course, the negative is if the match ends up with 2 goals, you're only going to win half your bet. But I only have 1 goal projected in this match for England. So I think you'd be okay betting under 2.25, but under 2.5 is a client play for me. And that's how I'm playing this one Thursday, noon Eastern in the Euro Cup. We had a nice winner on Turkey yesterday, 18-6 run on the pitch, 75% going back to mid-April.
So just looking at UFA for tomorrow, I mean, Serbia, Slovenia, total 2.5. England, Denmark, total 2.5. Italy, Spain, total 2.5. There are, you can make it 2.25 for any of those. But, I mean, is that just a line that you see for most of these matches? It's just 2.5, and is it that easy? It's not. I mean, there's not even any variance here.
No, yes, 2.5. Yeah, 2.5 is the standard total you're going to see in all these matches, and a lot of them have been going over, Teddy, to be honest with you. I'm interested to see, as I was waiting to see if the books would adjust. I mean, I think, what was it, the first 4 or 5 matches in the tournament all went over the total, 3 or more total goals scored. But like I said, that England-Serbia one, my goodness, England scored early, 13th minute, Jude Bellingham, and they just basically parked the bus. They didn't have much of an attack, and this is probably the best defensive side in the tournament. It's never easy, Teddy, as you know. It's never, quote-unquote, that easy. But I think in this case, we should not expect more than 2 goals to be scored when England takes on Denmark tomorrow.
It's Bryan Power talking a little bit of soccer, talking baseball, and he'll talk more baseball at 2 Eastern once again on First Pitch today. Bryan, your first 5% MLB play of the season goes today, and what a great time because it is Half Price Wednesday, so you get an instant 50% discount on that 5% best bet. Tell us about it.
Yeah, first one of the season. Not just that, first one in nearly 10 months. You'd have to go back to August of 2023 to find the last time I had a 5% bet in MLB. I'll peel back the curtain just a little bit. It is a side. My last 2 MLB sides have been great. I mentioned Arizona earlier. That was a 5-0 winner last night. Had Boston in the first 5 on Sunday Night Baseball against the Yankees as well. So feeling really, really good about this one. I also, more half price stuff, I have my next 2 Euro Cup winners available, $14.50 for the pair. I just gave you one of them with the under in England and Denmark. The other one does go today, so hurry up if you want to get that on my page, wt.buzz/BP. And see you soon, Steve, I guess, in just a little over 90 minutes. And Teddy certainly needs no endorsement from me, but I absolutely love his college football season win total that he's about to give out.
Ooh, you know it. A little foreshadowing. Yes, very anxious to talk about this one because this is Teddy's Michigan Wolverines. And, Teddy, I'm looking at it right now. The first 6 seasons that Jim Harbaugh was the head coach, they won 10 games or less every time. The last 3 seasons, they have won 12 games or more, including the national title last year. Season total wins is at 9.5, I believe. You said Alabama was the same. Too low, or have things really changed for your Michigan Wolverines?
Well, things have changed a lot. And remember, even though Michigan went 15-0 last year, it only counts as 12-0 when it comes to season wins. Conference title games and bowl games don't count for college football season wins or NFL season wins for that matter. This is regular season only. So Michigan lined at 9.5 wins, juiced to the under. That's 2.5 wins lower than last year's final record, not 5.5 wins lower than last year's final record. Jim Harbaugh bolted as soon as he won the title. We give Harbaugh all the credit in the world for guiding Michigan to a title, but he saw the writing on the wall. He didn't leave by accident. All right, Sherrone Moore takes over. First year, first-time head coach. First year, first-time young offensive coordinator with Kirk Campbell, a guy who everyone likes, but he's not a guy with a boatload of experience in this role. And we look at Michigan's offense, and they lost everything. Everything. Starting quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, the running back, Blake Corum, the entire offensive line, the two most productive receivers, all of them lost, and all of them NFL talent, every one of them. We saw a 5-man quarterback battle in the spring. Nobody won the job. Offensive line being completely rebuilt. Yeah, there are a couple of nice transfers, a kid from Stanford, a kid from Northwestern, but it's a less experienced offensive line, significantly weaker from last year. So, okay, the defense is going to carry them, right? And it might, all right? Michigan defensively is loaded. That being said, they've already had injuries in the secondary. That's a concern. And the entire defensive coaching staff, from a year ago is turned over. So it's new head coach, new OC, new DC. There's a lot of change. And I know that it's Wink Martindale, a guy with a great reputation, and a guy who also played as well in the NFL because he was too aggressive with the schemes, too much blitzing, et cetera, et cetera. Michigan is poised to take a step down. They're not as talented as they were a year ago. There are question marks, offense, defense, special teams. And then we look at the schedule. Look at this schedule. Texas, USC, flat spot game against Minnesota, at Washington, huge flat spot game in Illinois, in-state rival Michigan State, Oregon comes to town, Northwestern in a tricky spot, at Ohio State to close out. That's a brutal slate. Brutal. Michigan under 9.5 wins. The only way I can look this year. Last year was a great year for the Wolverines. 2024, not so much. There's your big game breakdown. Check out my 5% big ticket in MLB, half price today on Wednesday. All plays and packages at WagerTalk.com. Half price, 5% big ticket goes tonight in baseball action. Steve, back to you.
Yeah, the other thing too, Teddy, about these superstar teams that are a lot weaker all of a sudden is that nobody overlooks them, right? They still play them like they're the national champs, like they're an undefeated team. And it makes it so difficult to ever have a week in which you catch your opponent sleeping. So it's just that's probably another loss or two right there for Michigan, just due to the fact they're going to get the A game from every opponent they play this year. Your Michigan Wolverines reminds me a lot of my Washington Redskins, and I say that because both of us don't follow those teams or root for them at all anymore for the most part, unless we're betting on them. And I remember the Joe Gibbs era when I was growing up throughout the 80s and the early 90s. And he saw the writing on the wall as well, because the 1991 season, they go 14-2. They win Super Bowl 26. He sticks around the next season. They go 9-7, finish third in the division, a very competitive NFC East at the time. He wins a playoff game and then loses in the divisional round. So a playoff winning season, 1 year removed from the Super Bowl, and he leaves. And we always thought that was strange. They'd gone 23-9 those 2 years. What happens the next year under Richie Pettibone? 4-12. He's gone. North Turner, 3-13, and then 6-10. It's very eerie comparison. So I love what you're saying about Harbaugh saw the writing on the wall, and I always say that about Joe Gibbs. I think he saw the right. That was an aging Redskin team, by the way, a very veteran team that wasn't really replacing a different story, obviously, for Michigan, but still, I think you're onto something there, and it's not going to be back-to-back national titles for the Michigan Wolverines. Teddy, we're going to talk some more. Chime in, though.
Let me jump in because it's worth noting. We talked about Gibbs. Gibbs ran it back after the Super Bowl. All right. Harbaugh didn't even run it back. He's like, no.
Right.
I did what I came here to do. Bye-bye. So the fact that he didn't even run it back, it tells us what you need. I mean, that's one of those scenarios where it tells you what you need to know. And again, there's money pouring in on Michigan under. All right. It's not one of these you can wait till August and make this bet. If you want to bet the Wolverines under, what you're seeing, what I'm seeing, what we're talking about, the markets are seeing this. It's one you have to bet sooner rather than later, because there's been significant wise guy support for under 9.5 wins for the Wolverines in the betting markets already. And that support isn't going anywhere. Again, when you look at that schedule and you talk about how all these, all the teams are coming to bring their A game against the Wolverines, all those little flat spot games, the Northwesterns, the Illinois, those can be tricky in a season like this for Michigan. So under 9.5 wins, clear choice for this better.
Yeah, the other thing, too, it's a snowball effect. Not only is the opponent bringing their A game, but when you win a national championship and you have multiple losses, maybe halfway through the season, you've had a few losses, you're out of the national title mix. Really hard to get motivated then for like a mid-major bowl game. I mean, it's like, what's your goal at that point when you just won the national title the year before? So very interesting, and something we'll talk more about, obviously, as we get closer to August with the start of college football. We do have some football going, though, and we bring on our resident Canadian for the day, and that's Andrew McInnis. And, Andrew, you're going to look at some CFL action here, and you do quite well, obviously, in the CFL. First game you want to talk about is the BC Lions and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. You're going to look at the over-under in this one.
I am, guys. Great to be here with you, as always. And I will say, I'm always trying to get people into the CFL, so I'm going to throw out this tidbit. 7 of the first 8 games so far this CFL season have been decided in the last 3 minutes. So it's been really incredible, really tight game so far. Only 1 blowout on the season. So I do encourage people to check it out. But hey, if you don't want to watch it, follow along and try and make some money with me. And we're going to bet the highest total on the board under the total in this one. Winnipeg and BC going head to head. These are 2 of the higher scoring, most exciting teams to watch over the last few seasons. And so what I've kind of been going at over the past few days, and I've been discussing with people in the CFL community as well, CFL betting community, about power ratings, power rankings, right? How do you talk about a team after the first 2 weeks compared to how you talked about them before the season? It's been an absolute disastrous start to the year for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. People are scratching their head about the opening line for this game as far as BC and Winnipeg is concerned. And it makes sense because Winnipeg has not looked very good, but you can't base 2 weeks off of everything you know about them going into the season. But one thing I can look at is the fact that a multiple-time most outstanding player, quarterback Zach Collaros, has thrown 0 passing touchdowns so far, guys, and 3 interceptions on the season. Winnipeg with just 12 points in week 1 and 23 points in week 2, but against the league's worst team last year with the Edmonton Elks. I expect more than 23 points out of them. A big quote I've seen, and quotes all over the locker room, are about simplifying the game plan. Offensive coordinator, head coach, everyone talking about putting the team in a position to succeed, simplify the game plan, and try and get in rhythm, try and build some momentum, build some confidence. You look at the injuries, well, both teams are dealing with injuries here, but especially Winnipeg with Dalton Schoen, their top receiver, starting running back Brady Oliveira for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And BC, last week, look, 26-point performance for them, but it was against Calgary. I think they should have more points on Calgary. I was a bit disappointed with them, but I think it's a huge emphasis for them to run the ball a lot more this year. They've been such a great passing team for many years, but they haven't been able to establish the run. They pick up William Stanback in the offseason. He's going to get a ton of carries each week. And guys, over the last 6 meetings between these teams with this total, the over-under is 3-3. So you guys know across every football league, people look at the 2 high-flying teams. They don't look at the number. They look at the teams and they say, well, this game has to have a ton of points. Well, this total is high, and I get it for a reason. We're going to go under this week and look for a lot of field goals and a lot of defense.
Field goals and defense on center stage. Let me ask you this. When it comes to these totals, because again, we're looking at a very similar range. We got 51.5 in one game. We got 49.5, 50 in another, 50.5 in the third. We're talking about Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Much like we were talking with the soccer totals that are just locked in at 2.5. These totals, they almost feel systemic. Yes. They're all coming into the same range. Are you feeling that as well? And
Absolutely,
tell me why.
Absolutely. The short answer, and I say this all the time, I think, is that I've talked to bookmakers about this. There's not enough action coming in on it. There's not enough info, and the books, they just react to the bets they receive. I mean, the movement that you see in the CFL, guys, put it this way. When I put out a 5% play, I'm disappointed sometimes with the great line value I get because I have to take down the package, and you put out a play. So I look at these totals, and you'll see one open up, Teddy, at 48 and end at 52.5. You just don't see that in the NFL. You might see like a 1-point move, 1.5-point move. We had a team that was plus 8.5 in week 1 close as plus 3.5 underdogs. So my answer to you is, they're very consistent, 47.5, 48. But the second they get hit, they move big time, and they're very reactive, these totals. So what I try and do is not let what's going on with the market influence my decision. But sometimes it's very hard not to when you see how hard some of these numbers are getting hit.
In that game, of course, BC and Winnipeg is on Friday night at 8:30 Eastern this Friday. And then, Andrew, we also got games this weekend. We're going to look at the last game for the week, and that's on Sunday at 7 Eastern Sunday night. Going to take a look at Hamilton and Saskatchewan. Also look at the over-under in this one.
Yeah, Steve, a lot of people don't like unders, right? I mean, people want to bet overs. They want to cheer for points. And here I am coming on Wager Talk today, giving out 2 unders. When I was deciding which games I wanted to send in, I wanted to try and find a side or a total to give out. It'd be more exciting. But hey, guys, cashing tickets is exciting as well. And this presents one of my favorite spots to look towards in the CFL compared to a lot of other football leagues. You just don't see home and homes and back-to-backs like this. It's just not something you see. And in the CFL, you see it all the time, especially early in the year. So we have Hamilton and Saskatchewan going head-to-head for the second straight week. The first week was in Hamilton, and Saskatchewan had a huge comeback with, I believe, 13 unanswered points, a dominant fourth quarter for them to win 33-30. So you might say to me, well, the first meeting had 63 points. What do you expect to be different? Well, one thing I expect to be different, the penalties. There were flags everywhere. It looked like someone hadn't had a laundry day in months. I mean, there was just clothes all over the floor. I think that's going to be addressed. We've heard how much it's been addressed in practice. The coach had talked about how Saskatchewan's coach, his team is 2-0, and he feels like discipline in the team. He feels like he's just disappointed in the team. So it's a good thing he's 2-0, but they have not been disciplined enough. Levi Mitchell, look, he had a good game through the air, but I believe that he's going to face a ton of pressure from Saskatchewan. I think he got lucky with some of the plays. The drives were extended due to the penalties. You take away some of those penalties, you're not getting saved with some extra first downs. And the run game is a huge emphasis, I think, for both teams, but especially Hamilton. I mean, for a team to have the lead like Hamilton did and not be able to hold on to it, it goes to show they really have to keep showing love to James Butler, keep running the ball, and try and establish that ground game, which will definitely open things up for them through the air. Both teams do have great field goal kickers, so they have no problem kicking from deep. But when it comes down to it, guys, I'm going to look towards the other side. People love to react. They love to look at 1 week and see which team won ATS. They also like to look at how many points were scored and then just say, well, if the first meeting went over, second one has to. I'm always the contrarian. I look towards the other side. And a lot of times, too, you look at 1 week to the next, people could say, well, you have time to game plan for the offense against the defense. Well, the defense also has time to game plan for the offense that they just saw. And I feel like that actually benefits the defenses a lot more. So I'm going to look under in this one here, Hamilton and Saskatchewan. We're going under this weekend on the 2 highest totals on the board.
So I got to ask you, Andrew, was this the game last week where they could have kicked a rouge to win the game, but instead they kicked a field goal to win the game? You know what I'm talking about? And I'm wondering, does that happen? Like, is that something that would affect this week's game? It was a weird ending. And the rouge versus you have to make the field goal, why would they do that? And is that the type of thing that's going to come back around this week? And I don't know enough about it. That's why I'm asking you.
This one was a walk-off field goal. So this one was 33-30.
Right, but they could have they could have gotten 1 point, but instead they went for 3 points. And I don't understand why they did that.
That is it. Well, because there's always the risk of the other team catching the ball and absolutely bringing it back off a field goal miss and going the other side. I find it.
Yeah, Eddie, with the field
numbers. Goal. Yeah, the numbers are so weird in the CFL that when people ask me, like when Ralph comes on and gives you guys the charts during the NFL season, and we talk about the amount of times a +2.5 or a +2 or +1 win the game anyway, so you might as well take the money line. CFL is the exact opposite of that. You might as well take the +1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, whatever you're going to get. I do agree with you. I think that's in the cards, and I think we actually saw a lot of that. We saw a lot of punts go through the end zone. We saw a lot of teams get trapped. Sometimes in the CFL, the American-born players, shockingly enough, even though they're playing in the league, they aren't aware of the rules. So sometimes instead of, not leaving the end zone, they try and escape and they end up on the 5-yard line, which they could have just taken a few points to get themselves better yardage and better spot in the field. Does that translate what you're saying there to this week? I think it could, the strategy and what they saw last week. But again, I'm just not confident I'm going to see the same on offense. I'm confident that the, film and research they can look at from the previous week will help them out defensively. And again, guys, there were so many drives that were extended by penalty flags. It bothered me a ton. I mean, there were so many times that, Hamilton was about to go 2 and out, and then it was a face mask or roughing the pass or a misconduct on Saskatchewan, and it was an automatic first down for Hamilton. I think if that goes away this week, we could see a drastic difference. And I will say this, and real quick, I know you guys don't have too much time, but I want to ask your guys' opinion on something, because you guys have been in this a lot longer than me. The algorithms and the computer systems with betting, on live betting, right? I'm a huge fan of CFL live betting. With other sports, I've really tampered off. Do you guys think that the algorithms that are being used for the CFL are maybe set up for, let's say, college football or NFL, or they're not set up appropriately within this league, or they are specifically for the CFL? Because I feel like 2 and outs, like in the CFL, it's way harder to kill the clock and milk a lead than it is in the NFL. Like the NFL, it's 17-3 with a couple minutes to go. That game could be over. In the CFL, you go out there 2 and out, get the ball back, score, 2 and out, get the ball back, score. It can change different. I've had teams at plus 15.5 this year, guys, that have won the game outright like it was nobody's business. Is there anything different here? Or, Eddie, I saw you shaking your head.
Well, when it comes to live betting, I'm confident that the model that the books have is not the same model that they use for college or the NFL. They have a CFL model. But all it is plugging in all the data. All it is plugging in all the results, and from the results, the previous results, it's spitting out lines and probabilities for the current game. But it's not a scenario where they're using an NFL product an NFL algorithm to create CFL lines in game. That would shock me if that's the case.
I guess it feels like to me they're not.
You definitely can find spots, though, Andrew, in which you think the key is to know the algorithm in any of these sports, right? And then to find situations where you think it's going to vary from the long-term average. Because like Teddy said, they're using long-term statistical data. And if you think something is different on the field, or if a game plan is going to change, or a key player maybe is not going to be involved. But yeah, you're a good point. I mean, the CFL, obviously, bigger field, less downs. It's a totally different game.
You just get the ball back faster. That's all my point is. I love it just because, it's just there's with 4 or 5 minutes to go, no matter what the score is, there's still always a possibility of the comeback. You can't kill the clock like you can. And the running game is so important. So I'm just excited, guys. As you know, I love the league. And again, 7 of the first 8 games decide in the final 3 minutes.
Andrew, tell us about a 5% CFL play for half price. It's half price Wednesday. Now the games go later this week, but you got to get this play tonight for half price.
Well, Steve, you always talk about it, the long-term investment approach, right? Here we are on Wednesday. The game is on the weekend. I'm sure people are at the website. They're tuning in right now. They're watching WagerTalk TV. They're at the website. But you want to try and find a play and get the best value, get it half off. I'm on an 11-3, 5% run, close to plus 40 units into the CFL on a long-term scale with my 5% plays. 3 straight winning seasons for me in the CFL. I know it's only Wednesday, but you can get that 5% play half off. It's a situational best bet, a play I use all the time in the CFL. Love this spot, guys. You can join me at midnight. That goes back to $35. Also, that great deal. I mean, $77 for a week is a great one. That was actually the one we had last week. We got the buy July, get the rest of June for free. I forgot that the week one was gone. But a lot of great deals going nonetheless at WagerTalk.
Yeah, Andrew, as I say, the only deal better than half price for all the plays today on Wednesday, Teddy and Andrew, is to get all the plays today on Wednesday free from your favorite capper, because when you buy July, you get the rest of June free. And look, we've had that promo now for the last couple of days. I've gone a perfect 4-0 on Monday and Tuesday since that promo started. Shame on you for sitting back, but there's still 12 more days of June that you can get for free when you buy July. I do have a strong baseball best bet going tonight. Teddy's got an extra strong baseball best bet going for Wednesday, a 5%er, and you can get both of them for half price, or once again, get them for free when you sign up for July. You get the rest of June, these next 12 days and nights for free. On the way out, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank everybody in the live chat. I was trying to do this earlier, but you guys have been bumping today. There's too many to keep up with. A lot of the usual suspects, so catch you slipping. Have Cash, Andrew McInnis. We also got Big Daddy, as always, Lake Show Magazine, David Gray. Once a shout-out, I gave him a shout-out, David. Also going to look at Daryl Turner, G. Hurt, Titan CT, a lot of the regulars, the known suspects, Roger Long, Jesse Schul, the newest exclusive member at WagerTalk.com. He's in the chat. Good to see Jesse there. Also, G. Hurt, as I said. Lots of others. And if I didn't mention your name, David, Ray D'Amico was the first in, by the way, and he's still there. Be sure to chime in at 2 o'clock Eastern on the baseball show, as we will see you live, and we will take some live questions on any pitcher props, player props, any specific games you want to look at with myself, Steve Merrill, Bryan Power, and Mark Zinno, 2 o'clock Eastern, and then, of course, archive 24/7. So click subscribe and click the bell for instant alerts. Thumbs up, like, and comment below on the replay, because I do read all the comments, and I reply back here on Wager Talk TV. Teddy, the Prez is out the rest of this week, so it is safe for viewers to come back tomorrow and Thursday to see you and me. And then it is also safe Friday to see me and Andy Lang. And then it is safe this weekend. And then Monday gets a bit dicey. In the meantime, take us home.
Sure. Whether it's Prez, whether it's you, whether it's me, our goal is the same every day. Give you good, accurate info, get you in and out in 45 to 50 minutes or less. And we've done that today. Thank you for watching Wager Talk TV. We'll do it again tomorrow. Same time, same channel. Between now and then, enjoy the games and best of luck with all your wagers.